Hi there, my name is Ken Macbeth. I have developed the Macbeth Elements Synthesizer. I thought that I would take some time to do 2, 3, maybe 4 videos as a tour of the Elements Synthesizer. For those of you who have been watching, you will have seen the development of this synth over a year. Yes, it's taken me over a year to perfect it and make an instrument that I'm extremely happy with, a reliable, solid build, and no fix-it-up-laters. It's has stellar sound, it's great fun to play, and I'm looking forward to giving you a tour of what the instrument does. So on this first video, we're going to look at the front panel. We're going to look at some of the input-output sockets on the back, and we'll get to hear what the thing does. Obviously, that may be in the next video. This first one, as I say, I just want to show you what's on offer with this amazing synthesizer. So let's get on with it. Let's look at the front panel. Thank you. So here we have the Elements Synthesizer front panel. One of the striking features of it, I suspect, is the full 3-octave touch keyboard here. It's a touch capacitive keyboard with gold pads for the keys, and I've picked on gold because it's hard wearing and it's pretty much impervious to oxidization. So that's the point of that. Here we have 3 voltage controlled oscillators. And we have a 4th oscillator here, which is a voltage controlled low frequency oscillator, but it can be used as an audio oscillator, and it functions almost identically to the 3 audio oscillators that we have here. The 3rd oscillator here can also act as a modulator, goes low frequency too, and it will target oscillator 2 and the filter here. So these are your frequency controls. These are vernier dials, and that's a nod and a wink to good old British design. We've also got the Cliff knobs here, which I have actually got the company Cliff to have them manufactured for me. Next stage here we have another mixer, because these are volumes going down here. We have an external amplifier that can be used to process drum machines, other instruments, tape recorders, and in my case I quite like playing the radio through it. So there you go. It's targeted to the VCF, or it's targeted to the ring modulator, which sits here. And this is based on the MC1496 balanced modulator IC. It's a favourite of mine, and if you enjoyed the Macbeth X series dual oscillator, people seem to like the ring modulator in that. It's the same guy in this one. And in the middle of that section we have a noise generator, and it provides you with a white noise output or a pink output. It also serves to function in the 2 sample and hold units, which are circuits which are based in this. This here is the filter. It's a diode ladder low pass filter. I call it a transdiode ladder filter because I have configured transistors to have a diode function. It gives 2 poles. It gives what I call A and B. A is a very acidic 6 decibel per octave filter slope, roll-off slope, and we have B, which is a 30 decibel per octave roll-off slope, which gives this thing a very powerful sound. What we have here is two ADSR envelope generators. The top one is primarily targeted to the voltage controlled filter, and the lower one here is targeted at the voltage controlled amplifier. So what we have up here is what I call the tape delay simulator. I'm a great fan of old school electronic industrial sound, Cabaret Voltaire, that type of thing. And a while back I used to have a Melos echo chamber which could get low and dirty, as does this thing. It's great fun to play. It reminds me a bit of a Watkins copycat, especially when it goes into its repeat mode. And here we have the spring reverberator output stage, and we have built into the device an analog spring reverb tank and circuit. Just looking here, yeah, this control section includes your master tune and however you choose to drive the machine, which is via touch keyboard, MIDI, or in fact external CV and gate. The two black controls here, these are your modulation controls and what I call ultra bender. And when this is swung high, your VCOs can in fact go right out of the audio range, and when it's slung low, they can go below the audio range. Great fun to play with. A different variation, say, on the pitch mod wheel idea, but to keep the unit as a kind of flat object, I didn't want to have the traditional wheels in, because the assembly for that actually makes the thing far chunkier and bigger, which is not what I was after. But anyway, so there you have it, an overview of the synth. It's just over 19 inches wide, and it's just under 15.5 inches deep. So that's the front panel. Let's have a look at the outputs on the rear or the top of the unit. Here we have the rear panel, especially when it's sitting down, it would be a rear panel. This is your plus or minus 12 volts DC power connector socket. This is the synth out socket, so that's where all the sound of this stuff comes out. Important for me to include on this player's synth is gate out and CV out, which you can use to play other voltage controlled synths, or indeed a big modular. In fact, I play my modular with this. Your pitch bend and modulation data, or control voltage, it gets mixed with the CV out, so you can do all kinds of tricks with this stuff on your modular. I also included external gate in and 1 volt per octave CV in, and that's for general sequencing or using a CV and gate keyboard. We've got the spring line in-out socket here. This is a kind of send and return. So you've got built into the unit a spring line tank, but let's say you wanted to use a large spring line tank, or indeed an external effects processor. You can send and receive through that socket. It will override the tank that's in here. But hey, it's great. As I say, you can send it to other effects. I've shown on previous demos using an old REX50 Yamaha delay and effects unit to great effect with this thing. We've got 1 volt per octave CV in for going to the VCF in this socket here, and your external amplifier input goes there, that socket there, and it's a proper amplifier that's in here, so it's not just like a resistor and a capacitor tagged onto the filter. And within this size, and these of course are all 1/4 inch jacks, solid stuff, I included for each VCO its own CV-in. So for instance, I've been using a Korg SQ10 3-track sequencer. I can sequence VCO 1, 2 and 3, playing different pitches. It's wonderful. I have plans to make a sequencer which I will include quantization for each sequencer channel, so that will make life quite a lot easier than using the SQ10. And finally here we have MIDI, MIDI in and MIDI through, and a MIDI learn function to select which MIDI channel you want to drive the unit from. I felt it was important to include MIDI. I love using this touch keyboard, but it can work in conjunction with MIDI data coming into this. The MIDI in this unit was made for me by John Kenton Price, so you're getting a MIDI CV converter in. It's brilliant. So that's the rear panel. So let's start looking at more closely the functions that are on the front panel. We can take a closer look. Just a quick one here for those who are wondering what the reverse side of the Elements looks like, or the underside of it. It's one nice sheet of aluminium there. We have rubber feet on it for a good secure hold on a desktop. Although the thing actually stands up very well too. You know, you can prop the thing up. It's quite solid standing. I've put my big logo on there and some writing there. Yeah, I love the look of it. Anyway, as said, let's get looking at the front panel again in detail. Okay, so taking a closer look at the oscillator section here. As said before, your 3 primary oscillators are 1, 2 and 3. So let's look at this top one. I'm going to excuse this control just for a sec, but here's your frequency control. This vernier will transport the oscillator above and below the audio range, of course depending on how you have your key, where you're sitting on the keyboard. It's a multi-turn vernier. Now next to this we have this control here, which is VCO1 waveform control. It's identical to VCO2. So we have a ramp waveform, we have a square waveform, and we have enhance waveform, we have a triangular waveform, and we have a sine waveform. And here's the volume control of that oscillator. So the enhance, which is also on VCO2, from a keyboard point of view, let's not call it pulse width modulation, but in fact that's what it is. And there's a separate speed control here, which goes through slow, through medium, and to fast. So you get the lovely shimmering pulse width modulation control. That's synthesizer term. Anyway, we now go on to the volume controls of these guys, which go from 0 to overdrive. Okay, and setting 6 has a little circle going around the 6 because that is the optimum volume for the oscillators. And if you go higher than 6, you're not going to get something horrible, but there is a signal just mild distortion. So if I was playing this thing and I'm just wanting the normal type volume sound off this thing. I put it to 6, okay? So that's your enhance rate, that's your waveforms, that's your volume. Beside this one, we have oscillator 2, we have global portamento. So that allows glide and all that kind of thing, and it applies to the filter that we'll talk about as well. So you got the same waveforms there. Oscillator 3 is a wee bit different, and what we have here is actually octave switching. So there's the 0 setting for the octave switching. If you put the 0, all these guys will match together, but it's nice to be able to switch up 1 octave, switch up 2 octaves, or switch down 1 octave, or switch down 2 octaves. And there we have a function called low, which means that this is switched into low frequency. And this being VCO3 has its own control voltage on-off, which makes it similar to the VCLFO that I've described. So you can switch out the control voltage to this one. And believe me, when you're using 2 modulators, like low frequency ones, or even in high speed, it's fantastic playing with 2 in the audio, because we want to get that interval or detune effect or whatever, but we can have 2 of them modulating that. VCO3 syncs to VCO2, hard sync, and when VCO3 gets bent by ultra bender, because it doesn't have to bend the whole synth, it can be targeted to VCO3, you can do dramatic sync sweeping or manually doing it, or use the LFO for it. We'll hear that later. And VCO3 also has a route. Now it goes to VCF audio, or it goes to mod VCO2, so you can cross modulate VCO2 with VCO3, and that will set up a storm. So that's the oscillators. There's your external amp that I've described. Yep, you just plug a jack in there and you can target it to VCF, or you can target it to the ring modulator. You got your noise generator, and this is your switch for choosing between white or pink. And we have the ring modulator volume here. The ring modulator takes the sine wave from oscillator 1, VCO1, and VCO2, and I chose to pick on sine waves because if you're after bells and chimes and metallic sounds, these are the obvious one to go for. This is the voltage controlled filter, the diode trans filter as I call it. So here with this closer look that we're having, you can see the slope A or B. That's the 6 dB per octave slope, and this is the 30 dB per octave roll-off slope. It's a very fat filter, and it's like nothing I've made. I really am quite proud of it. We have the frequency, cutoff frequency control here, and we have the response, known as resonance, here. In the center position, there is no VC voltage control coming to the filter. When it's switched to the left, there's a 1 volt per octave frequency response there, and that will play because this thing self-oscillates a pure sine wave. Actually, this could be considered a 5th oscillator on the device. I've also included the switch to go to 2 volts per octave. Now, you might wonder why. What I found is that if you play at 1 volt per octave, and it's not oscillating, it's really nice. The filter shuts down at the bottom here and it opens a bit up here. But just like what I did on the previous Micromac unit that I did. I included something that was, I think on that unit, about 1.5 volts per octave. And what this does is that if you play high on the keys, it's bright and open, but if you play just down, the filter shuts up, and it does it brilliantly. So with sequences or fast keyboard playing, you get something very special. Works great with bass. VCO3 can also modulate the filter, and that's great because if VCO3 is, say, set on a slow moving triangle, you can use a square wave or sample and hold, something like that, from the VCLFO, and it's great. Some of you synth guys will know what I'm talking about, where you have a filter that's being modulated by a triangle or a sine, and then you inject some sample and hold or a square wave. I'll try and demonstrate this later, of course. And here's the sweep from the VCF envelope generator. The instrument just now, although there's no sound coming out of it, is set on repeat, and I'll go through that later as well, because we'll look at those controls. But I picked on quite vintage looking lamp holders here. They're very nice, look like something from the 70s with a silver bezel. As can be seen, you've got attack, you've got decay, sustain and release. Typical controls that you get on an envelope generator. It applies to the VCA controls as well. This switch here is the VCF to sweep VCO3. Now this is great when VCO3 is in sync mode to VCO2. You get that typical almost guitar-y like sync sound. I quite enjoyed that. There is polarity for the VCF VG. It's either positive or negative going. Negative can be a lot of fun as the envelope dips the filter down and comes back up again. It's wonderful. We have the timings for the envelopes here. So I've called them long and short. That's for this one and this one, separate controls. I would normally have it on short if I'm playing. And then long is, as you can imagine, long rise and fall times for the envelopes. Just before I forget, the controls at the top here, the tape delay simulator. So what we have here is your delay time, and instead of a 0 setting or a 10 setting, what we have is what I have called crunch and short, right? So short is a very short delay, almost close to flanging. The crunch, I don't know how to describe that. This is where the chip that I'm using breaks up, and you get crazy staccato, odd pitches, weird stuff comes from when it's set there. Round about the 3 setting, you start to get what I would call normal light delays, and as I've said, they go to short delays up at this end. So I thought modulation off the delay would be a good idea, so I voltage controlled this thing, and you have a choice with this switch between the voltage controlled LFO, making this delay speed up and slow down, or you can use a keyboard pitch, keyboard CV here, to govern the actual speed of what I call delay modulation. The next control here is repeats, and at 0 it's just a double of what you put in. The more that you take this up to what I call infinite, instead of the 10 setting, when you take it up to infinite, the thing will start to, is the term motorboat? I don't know. There's a term for when this gets infinite, and maybe infinite is the term. So it will start to oscillate, and it's very interesting when you put the delay mod on that as well. You've got the mix, which is between the original and the output of the simulator. And what happens here at the 10 setting, it's got more of a bias towards the delay unit happening. So that is fed to the master volume, but there's this other mix which is the reverb volume, and this is your spring reverb, which is a separate output to the master volume. And in fact, with the master volume turned down, you can turn the reverb volume up and just play with the spring unit. So that's what that lot does. Looking at these controls, this actually I call control. It's got your master tune, and it's got a selector here, and the selector is playing the instrument with a touch keyboard, or playing the instrument with MIDI, plus it includes a touch keyboard, by the way. This is great. You can shift your pitch all over the place. So if you're putting in a MIDI sequence, you can control the pitch of the sequence via the touch keyboard. And we have external control, and this is external CV and gate, and also you can change the pitch using the keyboard. I thought about this, by the way, and I thought include the touch keyboard or not, and I thought nah, it's great fun shifting things about while you use external devices and using the keyboard for that. You've got the VC LFO CV, it's either on or it's off. And of course, a nice thing, if you've got a voltage controlled LFO and the CV is on, you will get slow modulations at the bottom of the keyboard, and you will get faster modulations at the top of the keyboard. So as I said, master tune there. And next we have the ultra bender control and the modulation control, and they're quite chunky. These are 35mm diameter knobs, and they make articulation extremely easy. Once again, we see the vintage looking lamp holder. It's just nice. This thing just now is the LFO is set to sample and hold, and in fact it shows primitively the pitch or the voltage. It looks nice with triangular wave and stuff like that, and square wave, because it'll go in and out and on and off. This switch here is for VCO 3 or the synth for the bender, and a targeted VCO 3 because it gets synced by hard synced by itself to oscillator 2, and bending that thing is quite amazing. So what we see here is the VC LFO. So it's like an LFO, but it's voltage controlled as explained. We have a switch here called fast or slow. When it's in the slow mode, yes, it goes down to about 0.1 hertz. And in the fast mode, well, actually that's when you would use it for an oscillator, an audio oscillator. So we have speed or rate control here, which goes from slow through medium right the way up to fast. The sample and hold on this, and I should have pointed out, by the way, that the VCO3 shares identical controls to this. The VCO3 can be selected for the sample and hold that's in this. Now this is amazing. When you sample a rising waveform or a rising and falling waveform, it almost generates things that sound like sequences or arpeggiation. It's great fun. So your selector for your CV source here, it's VCO3 or it's noise. And noise, of course, being completely random, lets the thing go all over the place. You got a sawtooth waveform, a square waveform, a triangle waveform, a sine wave waveform, a ramp waveform, and sample and hold. These controls here, this one is specifically to modulate VCO3, and maybe now you're gathering that I've made VCO3 a bit of a target for things, especially when it's synced. It's amazing. This control here is mod VCF. It's to modulate the VCF, so you can sweep it or do all sorts to it. You have audio VCF, so that control is when the VCLFO is in an audio normal sort of oscillator sense. And finally on here you have the way that the envelopes are triggered. There is normal, which is where you're just playing the keyboard and it triggers it. You have hold, which is great if you want to get into trans acid stuff. You just set that to hold and the thing stays on, and you can play with the filter and do all sorts of stuff with it. And you have repeat, which is governed by the VCLFO, and the repeat, say in conjunction with sample and hold, it's amazing. It self-triggers itself and it goes through pitches all over the place. Well, thank you so much for listening to this demo. I hope you enjoyed me explaining what the Elements Synthesizer does. I'm looking forward to making, as said at the start of this, a couple of more videos which will show you how the thing sonically operates. I felt it was important to show you the front panel and show you the features of what the synth has. So I'll say goodbye for now, but shortly we'll investigate the sonic qualities. Thank you very much. Bye for now.